Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to give you that shortcut to getting really informed on the big shifts happening in industry. Today we're tackling field service management, or FSM, specifically the massive transformation that's underway. It's pretty necessary, it seems.
Really is.
Yeah, our sources are all saying the same thing. FSM is genuinely at a defining crossroads. And this isn't just, tweaking the scheduling software a bit. It's a fundamental pivot. We're moving away from that old reactive model.
Right, the send the closest person and cross your fingers approach.
Exactly. Moving from that, which was often manual, to something way more intelligent, predictive, data-driven. It's like a whole system rewrite for delivering services out in the real world.
And, this change isn't really optional anymore. For any company with field teams, this digital transformation is basically an operating necessity now, if you want to stay competitive, that is. We're really talking about laying the groundwork for, well, true scaling, becoming completely customer-focused and fostering constant innovation.
Makes sense.
But the big hurdle we see again and again in the sources, it's fragmentation. So many companies have adopted digital tools, right? A mobile app here, a scheduling system there, maybe a separate CRM.
Yeah, piece by piece.
Exactly. But they've often just bolted them onto old ways of doing things without really integrating them properly. And that just creates data silos, which ironically adds complexity instead of cutting it down. So our mission today is really to slice through that complexity. We want to show you how leaders need to rethink how their people, their processes, and their tech platforms all interact to get, well, what the sources are calling future ready.
Okay, future ready. And that fragmentation you mentioned, that leads us straight into this idea of the field service inflection point, that moment where the old way, the reactive way, just kind of breaks down under modern pressure. Historically, it was simple, right? An issue pops up, someone creates a job ticket, dispatch looks at who's free, sends them out, and maybe, if you're lucky, you look back 3 months later and figure out some patterns. It was all firefighting.
And that just doesn't cut it anymore. There are three big drivers pushing this change. First, you've got automation tech, especially AI and machine learning, which have gotten really good really fast.
Right.
Second, real-time data. It's everywhere now. IoT sensors, smartphones in the field.
Yeah.
It's mainstream.
Yeah.
But honestly, the biggest driver, and we really need to stress this, it's customer expectations. They've just skyrocketed.
Oh, absolutely. That's the part that really resonates. Customers don't just want the job done anymore. They demand transparency, right? They want instant updates, communication that actually knows who they are.
Personalized, yeah.
And basically zero mistakes. I mean, if you can track your pizza or your Uber on a map, why can't you see where your service tech is?
Precisely. And that's why the real pitfall here isn't the lack of technology. Lots of companies have tech. It's the failure to integrate it. Technology without that seamless communication just adds layers of complexity. Think about the friction that causes inside the organization.
Yeah, give us an example.
Okay, the classic one is the black hole between service completion and getting paid.
Yeah.
So the technician logs the job as done in their field app. Great. But then finance. They're manually reconciling that same cost, that revenue, maybe days, sometimes weeks later, in a completely separate accounting system. You just can't run efficiently with that kind of administrative lag baked into how you operate.
Or something maybe even more damaging strategically. Operations is scheduling their people based on old data, historical averages.
Right, looking backwards.
Completely blind to what's happening right now because their FSM system isn't talking to the sales team's CRM. So sales just landed a huge new contract that needs service capacity now, but operations is still scheduling routine maintenance like nothing happened. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. The company's basically tripping over itself.
Yeah, working against itself is a good way to put it.
So the sources seem to say bridging that gap isn't just about connecting wires. It needs a proper strategy, this future readiness model.
Yeah.
What does that actually involve?
It's about taking a holistic view. We're calling it a four-dimensional strategic framework. Think of it like this. Future readiness equals technology, times people, times process, times insight.
Times, so it's a multiplier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's multiplicative, not additive. If any one of those elements is weak or close to zero, your overall readiness tanks.
Okay, break that down a bit.
Sure. Technology, that's your foundation, the scalable infrastructure. But then people, that's about adaptability, human judgment, stuff you can't automate. Process provides the consistency. Standardization, making sure things are done right, meeting regulations every single time. And then insight. Well, that's the real game changer. It turns all that raw data into foresight. It lets you orchestrate things, predict outcomes, instead of just reacting all the time.
That idea of orchestration, That's powerful. It shifts FSM from being just a cost you have to bear to something genuinely strategic. And getting there means moving beyond just small upgrades. It needs systemic change. So let's shift gears now and look at the future ecosystem, say 2026 and beyond. What are the core technologies making this happen?
Okay, 4 key pillars here.
The first one, and it feels like the biggest game changer, is artificial intelligence, AI. The last decade felt like it was about automation making simple tasks repeatable. But the next decade seems to be about intelligence. We've got to go beyond just asking the AI who's the closest tech.
Absolutely. We're leaping from simple, single variable optimization, like just finding the shortest route, to true multidimensional optimization. The AI is essentially solving this enormous, constantly changing puzzle in real time. It's looking at the technician's specific skills, the parts they have on their truck, live traffic, service history for that customer, compliance needs, even how complex the equipment itself is.
Wow.
And this leads directly to the core benefit, shifting from just reacting better to having real foresight. AI, especially when fed data from IoT sensors, can actually predict the early warning signs of equipment failure, like a tiny temperature change, a slight drop in efficiency.
Before it breaks down.
Exactly. It flags it for maintenance before the failure happens. That's how you build real resilience. You start controlling the timeline instead of being controlled by breakdowns.
That sounds amazing, obviously. But if you've got, say, 1,000 service trucks and countless variables, it also sounds incredibly complex to manage.
Well, it is complex, but the beauty is the technology handles that complexity so the humans don't have to wrestle with it directly. And that takes us nicely to the second pillar, autonomous workflows. The goal here is genuine zero-touch operations for routine stuff or predictable issues, eliminating those human bottlenecks.
Okay, zero-touch operations. That phrase really jumped out at me from the sources. It sounds almost like sci-fi. Is that actually achievable today?
It is, definitely, because
Yeah.
it's built on good, integrated data and solid business rules, all triggered by APIs. Let's use a really practical example. A customer cancels a job last minute.
Okay.
In the old reactive world, a dispatcher probably starts scrambling, manually calling other techs to see who can take a different job to fill the gap.
Right. Chaos.
In an autonomous workflow, that cancellation instantly triggers an API call. It tells the scheduling engine, hey, I've got capacity here. The system, based on his rules about urgency and optimization, automatically finds the best alternative job for that now free technician, reroutes them, confirms the new appointment with that customer, adjusts inventory forecasts, maybe even starts the invoice adjustment process,
All automatic.
all in seconds, no human phone tag needed. That kind of efficiency really builds resilience against those everyday disruptions.
That's efficiency defined, all right. So the third pillar then focuses on the connections, the connected tools ecosystems. This really hammers home that point. Integration beats just adding more tools. You can buy the fanciest software for every department, but if they don't talk to each other...
You've just bought expensive complexity.
Exactly.
The strategic aim is to create what we call a closed-loop system. This means any data generated out in the field instantly becomes useful for everyone back in the office or in other related systems.
How does that work in practice?
Well, your CRM provides the context for the job. Not just what's broken, but who the customer is, their history, your value maybe. The FSM system then orchestrates the actual service response, who goes, when, with what parts. But here's the critical link. Because the FSM system captures definitive proof of service timestamps, parts used, customer signature of the accounting system can automatically generate and send an accurate invoice right away.
So it closes that revenue loop we talked about earlier.
Precisely. It turns potentially hours or days of manual reconciliation into basically real-time financial visibility.
That unified data flow sounds like a huge strategic advantage. Okay, and the fourth pillar, augmented reality, AR. This feels like it's moved quickly from being a cool demo tech to something genuinely practical in the field.
It really has. AR acts as that bridge between the physical world the technician is in and the digital information they need. The practical uses are amazing for cutting down errors and speeding up fixes. Imagine a tech working on complex machinery. They put on an AR headset or use a tablet, and they see hands-free repair guides overlaid directly onto the equipment. Instructions, diagrams, maybe even the right torque specs for bolts floating right where they need them.
And it's more than just looking at guides, isn't it? There's a collaboration aspect.
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. The tech can share their real-time view with a remote expert, maybe hundreds of miles away. The expert sees exactly what the field tech sees, can virtually point things out, draw annotations, and guide the repair step by step.
So it's like having your top expert virtually present on every single job site.
Essentially, yes. That dramatically cuts down on mistakes, return visits, and travel costs. It's a massive force multiplier for expertise.
Okay, so we've outlined this future state with AI, autonomous workflows, connected systems, AR. It's compelling.
Right.
But for our listener, the big question is probably, okay, great, but where are we right now in this journey? And the sources offer a helpful tool for the digital maturity framework. It's like a spectrum for self-assessment.
Yeah, this framework is really important because it helps you figure out where to invest next. It usually has a few levels. Level 1 is basically manual and reactive. Spreadsheets, paper forms, maybe some basic scheduling, but lots of phone calls. Data is stuck in silos. Consistency, forget it. Customer trust and profitability really suffer here.
Okay, the starting point for many, probably.
Then there's often a level 2, which is like basic digitization. You might have some software, but things aren't really connected. Still lots of manual coordination. But the critical jump, the one that unlocks real potential, is getting to level 3, integrated and scalable.
Tell us more about level 3. What makes that level distinct?
Integration is the key word for level 3. Your key systems, FSM, CRM, maybe accounting or ERP, they're actually talking to each other effectively. Automation handles the routine, high-volume stuff like basic scheduling and dispatch. And crucially, leaders start getting real-time visibility into their KPIs, their key metrics. This is really the point where you can start scaling your operations confidently because the processes are consistent and the data is actually reliable.
That's the foundation for growth, then.
Exactly. And then the ultimate goal, the top tier, is level 4, predictive and AI-driven. This is where advanced analytics and AI are actually guiding your resource allocation. You're not just responding to service needs anymore, you're anticipating them. You're proactively shaping the customer experience using that strategic foresight we talked about.
That's a really clear map, and to help people place themselves on it, the sources suggest asking some sharp questions. First, how well do your systems really communicate? That's the integration check. If your teams are constantly doing manual handoffs or entering the same data in multiple places.
That's fiction. That's a tax on your growth right there. Your scalability is capped.
Second question, are your decisions data informed, or are they still mostly based on experience or gut feeling? Moving up the maturity curve means getting beyond just, the dispatcher saying, oh, I always send Bob to that site. It means using solid data for planning, for inventory, for resource decisions.
Using the collective intelligence, not just individual experience.
And the third question, maybe the most underrated, does the technology actually enhance the employee experience, or does it just make their jobs more complicated? You can have the most sophisticated system in the world, but if it burdens the technicians, if it forces them into complex admin tasks instead of making their day easier,
Adoption will fail. And your investment is essentially wasted.
Mm.
Usability is key.
Which leads us perfectly, actually, to what might be the most critical piece of this whole transformation puzzle, the human imperative.
Absolutely. This is where so many big, expensive transformation projects fall down.
Yeah.
It's almost never the technology itself that fails, it's the people side.
Right.
Usually because employees feel left out, ignored, or even threatened by the changes.
Right.
Success hinges entirely on getting that human alignment, fostering adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with leadership framing the why.
Yeah.
But crucially, they need to translate these tech initiatives into human outcomes, not just talk about efficiency stats or percentages.
So instead of leading with, this new platform gives us 15% better asset utilization, which sounds good in a boardroom, you need to talk to the field team and say, look, this new system cuts down the time you spend fighting with paperwork by an hour a day. That gives you more time to actually solve the tough problems or build better relationships with the customers you see.
Precisely. That framing is about enablement, not just enforcement. It answers the what's in it for me question. And following on from that, the training needs to reflect this. It shouldn't just be a dry walkthrough of features, click here, then click there.
Ugh, the worst kind of training.
Exactly. Empowerment through training means focusing on those outcomes. How this tool makes your job easier, more effective, maybe even more rewarding. When people see the relevance, when the learning connects to their daily reality, it builds confidence. And that dramatically speeds up real long-term adoption by the folks on the front lines.
And for the leaders listening, how do you know if you're achieving that human alignment? It can't just be checking a box that training was completed.
No, definitely not. It requires building in continuous feedback loops. Communication has to flow constantly and in all directions. Your frontline technicians, the people actually using these tools out in the unpredictable real world, They need simple, direct ways to give feedback on usability issues, on workflow snags, on things that designers didn't anticipate.
Make it easy for them to report problems or suggest improvements.
Yes. If reporting friction is hard, people will just resist the new system or find workarounds. Listening actively to the field ensures the implementation actually adapts to reality, not just the initial plan.
Listening to all this entire deep dive really reinforces one core idea for me. These future-ready organizations, they're essentially orchestrators. They understand that the most powerful approach blends that cutting-edge tech with amplified, empowered human expertise.
That's a great way to put it. And ultimately, the key strategic takeaway here is that your FSM platform needs to be that central nervous system, that connective tissue. It shouldn't just be another silo. It has to enhance and integrate with the investments you've already made in your CRM, your ERP, your accounting software. That integration-first mindset is what creates unified intelligence across the business.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? We want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Creating a culture of continuous innovation isn't just about adopting new tech every few years. It's about embedding adaptability deep into your organization's DNA.
Mm-hmm.
The goal really shifts. It's no longer enough to just react well to change when it happens. It's about learning to anticipate it, to shape it where you can, and ultimately to leverage change itself as your main competitive advantage.